being able to keep coming back to calm, inner, grounded, centered presence.
Hello and welcome to the Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins podcast. We share people who've already healed themselves, along with health and wellness tips from myself. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins. My guest today is Dr. Doreen Downing, who is a psychologist, author, speaker, and the host of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. Doreen once suffered from stage fright, and in healing her wounded voice, she discovered that being connected to her essence, her authentic self, is the key to relaxed and confident speaking. She's passionate about empowering others to transform fear and find their voice so they too can stand up, speak out, and be heard. So welcome, Doreen.
Thank you. It's always nice to hear it read back because I relate to the truth of it. It's been a journey. Yes. Thank you, Sarah.
It is a real journey, isn't it? To find out who we are authentically and to be able to use our voice. So I know I've just shared in your bio what you've healed. Would you like to walk us through how you found out that you had the fear of speaking out and how you overcame it?
Oh, it is a journey. That's right. Well, I think that moving through life, I was happy and seemed like I picked a degree at the University of California to be a psychologist. I like to understand behavior and people, and I always had probably a bent towards helping others because I'm an older sister. I had a younger sister, and I think that has something to do with me being able to watch out and to care for others. So I think it was in my nature to be a psychologist. I also am an introvert, and I love listening. I love deep listening. However, I didn't really realize that I had a fear of speaking because there wasn't really any kind of way in which I needed to get out there, because as a psychologist, you sit in your office and you listen to people and you relate just one-on-one. And it was when I started to have to do professional meetings that it really came to me that my fear of speaking was showing up in a way that prevented me from expressing myself. And it would be something like sitting in a small room of 6 others where we're going to share our cases. There was about maybe halfway around the room to where I was going to share my case. I started to feel my heart pound, and my head started to feel like it was, throbbing. And I think that was, probably physiologically the heart beating so fast that it came up into my head and made me feel like I was dizzy. Isn't that amazing? So here I'm sitting feeling like I'm, pretty well professionally settled, and yet this physiological fear coming up inside of my body. And so that happened over and over. And I think I'm looking back. In fact, right now, I'm kind of thinking back about it from this point of view and saying, well, what was so scary? And I think for the first time, I just said, oh, here are these other professionals. And am I really one of them? And I think that there was probably a comparison going on. I'm not as, just not as good as the other people in this meeting who are having case studies and being articulate and coming up with theories. Sarah, thank you. That just talking about my story gives me a new insight, wouldn't you know? So I would say that was when I started to become aware of my trouble expressing myself in groups, and it just grew from there. Just any time I had to present in front of any group, it was scary. And what happened, what I did later about facing that is another story. But I think that's the beginning of my awareness that my fear of speaking was present more than I thought it was.
And I've been in that boat and still am to some degree. And for me personally, it's about self-worth. And we compare ourselves to others, don't we? You know, am I really as good as them? Am I really worthy of speaking in this group or to these people? And for me, I think it came down to fear of failure, which stopped me speaking out. What do you think? I know you've mentioned the worthiness, as in, are you on the same level as these people? Is there more to that?
I would say it was really clear now that I'm exploring this out loud for the first time with you, that inside I probably always carried a little bit of insecurity coming from some earlier kind of wounds around my voice, I would say. I probably didn't have deep confidence given the kind of family I grew up in. And I think there was a part of me that separated out from my insecurity and kind of put on a harder shell, like invincible, or hey, like really even, hey, look at me. I was a homecoming queen and I was head of the cheerleading squad. What? And I had, later discovered that underneath all of that was speaking anxiety.
And I hear you. It's, we can put on this persona, can't we, to kind of mask it. But deep down, there's something inside of us that's causing that fear.
Yes.
And it's about understanding it and being compassionate with ourselves as well, isn't it? Because it's easy to say, oh, come on, get over it and pull your socks up, and like our parents would, trying to be stoical, trying to use words to give us confidence. But unfortunately, the words they used sapped us of even more confidence.
Right. Well, the kind of pushing yourself into the persona is a little bit different than exploring the wounds and the hurt places around your voice. Yes.
Yeah. And I found I did both. I pushed myself on the one hand, and then on the other hand, there was that wound inside. What if I mess up? What if people laugh at me? What if they think I'm stupid? And all of that was from a deep wounding from words that were used in my childhood. And they weren't used to hurt me. They were used to try to help me to move forwards in life. But the words really cut into my heart, if you like, and had a massive lasting impact.
I love talking to you because it gives me, there's space to look at this earlier wounding around my voice, because your work is so much about healing, and we're talking about healing the voice today, healing the inner voice. And the voice is you. You come in as a little baby and goo goo gaga, that is so easy, but something happens. I mean, I don't think we arrive with fear about speaking. And yes, maybe the primitive, the amygdala back there who's still stuck in a jungle thinks that, oh my God, I've got to be careful. But I think early on is where we get confidence, and as a person or as a little being growing, and if we don't have that early kind of yay you, that mirroring back around our whatever we are, our specialness, that then I feel like that's where I really believe that's where the wounding originates, around being confident speaking. It's not like, let's go all the way back and, wallow in it. No, let's go back and say, yeah, that's true. Okay, now what? And that's about the healing.
It is. And I think we have to look at the lies we tell ourselves as well, because that wounding leads us to build a story about ourselves that I'm not a very good speaker, I'm not worthy, I shouldn't be here. These people are far more superior than me, far more intellectual than me. And we tell ourselves all these stories, but actually they're words that, whilst they're our voice in our head, they're not our words. And they were said to us not from malice, but from trying to mold and shape us as that young child to fit into their square box in society. Society wants you to fit into this box and be this model citizen. And in doing so, it carves the round peg that I am. It carved me into tried to fit into this square box. And I felt, and I still sometimes feel, very misunderstood, because I'm not the person that my parents wanted me to be. I'm an outspoken, I was called the black sheep of the family, but not in a nasty way. It was said in a way to try and make me change my ways, change my behavior, to become somebody who they thought would fit into this square box in society.
And I love the fact that here we are today, and you're not in your square box. Their square box. It almost sounds like, I don't know, it's kind of extreme, but a box is also a coffin where we lay our true selves down and abandon it, and maybe just put it away. And how wonderful to be able to say, oh, inside of me, inside of this box is a treasure, and how do I open it, and how do I recover what's inside? And there's a lot of work around shine, be yourself and shine, but also just it's not about even what you can do to start with. It's more about, let's get you connected to the part that is disconnected, your true self.
Absolutely. And remember who you are.
Yes.
Before you became who you are now to please other people.
That's wonderful. Somebody on my podcast, when I talked about find your voice, he goes, well, it's not that it was lost. We just don't remember.
Exactly. So what kind of work did you do on yourself, Doreen, to be able to get to where you are now, to find your voice and to help other people?
There was a moment when I had to finally admit that I was afraid of speaking in public, and I couldn't go on stage. And the organizer was pretty upset and confronted me and said, isn't fear your business? Here I am, a psychologist. And that, to me, that was the turning point, that I really couldn't avoid it anymore. Am I going to stay in my tiny office working with just one person at a time for the rest of my life? Or am I going to be able to work in a group, share more of what I have to share, be more of myself? And at that moment in my life, I decided, because it was a decision, okay, I've got to look at fear. And I think that that's one thing that people don't want to do. Who wants to get scared? Because to go towards fear, you have to feel the fear. And my process is about doing it in a way that allows you to be calm and relaxed as you're gently understanding, compassionately holding your fear, giving your fear some love, I guess you might say. That I never said it in that way, it just came out. So that you're you're not avoiding your fear. You're not saying, I'm going to go do it regardless of my fear, and pushing yourself, kind of like what we talked about before. And you aren't putting it off. So those are the three dangerous D's, I call them, that you deny it, that you have fear, that you try and defeat it, or you delay. So those three D's, I think, keep people from actually moving, because they don't know how to move towards fear. And that's what my strength as a psychologist, as a fearless speaking coach, is to help people find out how to navigate safely through fear so that they finally have a way to access down into what's in that box that we've talked about, the precious self.
And I really love that. We have to hold fear in love and in compassion,
Yeah.
and give ourselves some grace.
Yeah.
And as the saying goes, you have to feel it to heal it.
Oh
Because
no, I
there's a
have
lot.
never heard that.
Oh, have you not? You have to feel it
No.
to heal it. Yes. Yes.
Oh, can I take that to my next
Please
master
do.
class?
Yes, please do. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of talk out there that says take a negative thought and flip it into a positive. Well, no, take the negative thought, feel into it, see what the message is. Why is that fear showing up? And for me, it was my inner wounded child showing up, who didn't want to mess up, who didn't want to feel silly or stupid, who didn't want people's negative opinions. And that fear came because of that. So when I can hold my inner child in love and compassion, say, it doesn't matter if you mess up, it's a part of life, it's a part of learning. But it comes back down to our experiences as children. What happened to us when we messed up? Were we held in loving compassion, or were we scolded? And if we were scolded, we certainly have a fear of messing up and feeling silly.
Yes. Oh my. You also pointed to something in psychology that it's called rational therapy or cognitive therapy, where, change your mind and change your life. I love that you put what's most important in between those two. Is it's not just mind games, although a mindset is important, but the feeling, putting in the whole step of feeling, embracing before you can change what you think about a situation. So I liked what you just did about the 3 steps to, well, it's kind of like 3 steps to finding your voice, actually, because it's the awareness that it's a problem for you, but that feeling it is the beginning of changing the thought, is what I heard you say.
Yes, absolutely. And bringing that love and compassion for yourself as well. And know that it's whatever you're fearing, the fear of making a mistake, falling over, whatever that fear, know that it's okay, because we're just human at the end of the day. We all mess up sometimes, but just holding ourselves with love and compassion if we do mess up, and know that it's okay.
And I think that the being able to do the physical kind of having tools to, when your body is out of they call it dysregulated, but anxiety, that's a process that does actually confuse you. It tightens your body, the throat, the heart pounds, so it is hard to be calm and relaxed, and where words can flow more easily. So the actual awareness of the body itself having that reactive thing go on when you have a presentation you have to give in a couple of weeks and you're already having sleepless nights. Ooh, how to help your physical body to keep coming back, or not just help, but train. That, I think that's a better word. Train your body to come back to a relaxed state as you move towards the event, and even as you enter the event and as you are in the event, being able to keep coming back to calm, inner, grounded, centered presence.
That's the key, isn't it? To deal with the anxiety and that is caused from the fear. So could you share with us how you would what work you did, how you managed to turn your fear around and become the person you are today?
Well, I started with that class, Overcome Your Fear of Public Speaking, being sitting there with other people, and here I am already successful and accomplished and have my own business, but still quivering in my chair at that first class. And I just kept coming back to that class every month, and it was in San Francisco at the Learning Annex. Kind of free, come in, or maybe it was low cost, but just come for a couple of hours once a month to this class. And the person who led it, the teacher, said something that I feel was a breakthrough for me. And he talked about Michelangelo, the sculptor who saw the angel in the marble. And I'm even feeling that, that's it. Inside of all this casing, all this degree work and all this doctorate stuff and all this professional stuff, inside is my angel. And I want to free her. I want to have her come out and be powerful. How do I do that? So that instead of doing more Toastmasters and learning how to give speeches and reading books on how to overcome fear, what I did was do the inner journey with therapy and with putting more emphasis on going back and doing that inner healing, the inner child work that you talked about earlier. Hello in there. Who are you and what's so scary for you? And I'm here now in a way I couldn't have been there then. And so the dialoguing with the inner child, I think, is one of the techniques that worked, in journaling, and but also finding something that, and it was a process developed by Lee Glickstein called speaking circles, where you come into the group and everybody is silent, listening, and they're only focused on your essence, or, well, the best parts of you, a strength. They aren't looking at how you're delivering your speech, what you're saying, does it make sense? It's nothing about what you're saying. No content. It's just, in fact, you didn't even have to finish your thought. It was more about being in the moment, learning how to drop down into full presence, be with the listeners, one listener at a time, until you felt like you were free to say what you needed or wanted to say in the moment. So that was, again, I talked about the physicalness, that being able to drop down into this core of myself is a physical embodied experience. And that's where voice, for me, and what I teach people is that's where voice comes from. It doesn't come from a script and in your head. It comes from a knowing, an inner knowing that you've been able to drop into, listen to yourself, connect with, and then move through fear, and that's courageous confidence, move through to speak. And I would say the journey to find my voice was that, starting with traditional stuff like Toastmasters, and then realizing it didn't go deep enough, and then designing my own process. And now I have a signature 3-month program, Find Your Voice program, where people do go through a similar kind of healing journey that I went through so that they can show up and speak up in any situation. I like to say, from the boardroom to the bedroom, your voice is your most precious and powerful asset.
I really like that, Doreen. Thank you. Because I think the Toastmasters and the speaking places have a place. But first and foremost, we've got to come inside and do that healing work. We've got to heal the fear we have that is our inner child screaming, no, I can't do that, because they're terrified.
Yes.
And then once we can calm that inner child, then we can learn about what Toastmasters and speaking places teach about, how to put your speech over, how to use better words, how to not and find out what your go-to is. It has a place, but first and foremost, that inner work has to be done, because even if we're learning what our unusual words are, we've still got that inner child screaming, I'm really frightened. And but yeah, I say too many times. Well, that's okay. It's all part of our own learning. So thank you for that.
Yes.
And could you share one tip with somebody who is struggling to find their inner voice, their voice? What can they do on their own healing journey to help themselves to speak up?
Well, I'd love if they could read my book, actually, because it's kind of what you've been talking about. It's not about speaking, it's about being. And the 7 secrets I talk about in my book start with be still, be present, be attuned, which has to do with listening, be connected. And so every step that I talk about is about being. And that when I lead my programs, I ask, well, so what do you notice? And they say, it's not about speaking. I said, yes, it's about being. And that you have to come into knowing who you truly are and the strength of who you are. Maybe some people call it your superpower. I call it the essence. So that would be the first thing I'd want people to, it's not a tip, but I'll tell you a tip in just a second. But I wanted to, this idea, this frame that speaking is, you got to make a better speech, or you've got to do the words, or you got to eliminate ums. You got to have a particular stance or a vocal variety, all those kinds of performance techniques. But first, we have to come into just raw you and making that safe so that you grow from there. And that's my message in the work that I do, and I'm glad I get to speak about it today. But the tip comes from scientific research, and it's about the eyes. Because when we get scared, the eyes narrow. We have tunnel vision. Think about it. You're in the jungle and you hear a noise and it's dark and your eyes start to narrow because you want to focus on exactly where the danger is, right? So you go into this state of alertness, readiness. It's fear, actually, that you're frozen and starting to prepare for danger. And it has a lot to do with your eyes, believe it or not. And so what the tip is to soften. I'm doing it right now. And my voice just kind of dropped down a little bit, you might have heard, but soften my eyes, soften your eyes, and do a soft gaze. And I know that most programs say, make sure and look at your audience, but they don't tell you how to look. And what I'm doing is stepping back and helping people do the kind of looking that will engage listeners so much more than just looking at them. That that the softening of the eyes is a soft gaze. When you look at your listeners, there's more of an open energy channel where they feel, believe it or not, this has been proven that when you are gazing softly at somebody, not only are you more relaxed, but you do something about the way that you connect with them and how they then respond to you. And I think that, we're all sensitive beings, and people know when we're doing eye contact as opposed to, and speaking at, as opposed to softly gazing, including people in the speaking. Maybe even a whole nother tip at another time is about how to listen to your audience. But right now, the tip is about how to look at your audience, and it has to do with softening the gaze, softening your eyes. And if you do it right now, if you're listening to me, you'll notice that your cheeks begin to loosen in the back of your neck and your shoulders. It begins to affect the whole way you are in this moment present. And you could even feel your eyes. There's a wider vision as opposed to that narrow tunnel vision. And you are magically in a new state of presence with a wider view, calm. And that allows your voice to come up much more easily.
Thank you. And if somebody wasn't speaking to an audience, if they were having problems with relationships or at home, I suppose a deep breath first would help them to soften their eyes to then be able to find their voice and speak out.
Oh, breath is one word, breathe. Breathe, 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 breathe. Yes, there are techniques, but because it's always with you. And that's the other thing about breath and eyes, softening your eyes. You could be in any conversation, and all you have to do is think, soften my eyes. And it works instantly. Breath, I love breath. Sometimes breath gets caught here in your chest, so that's why I think that if you go soften your eyes, easy breath, there you are, back in the moment and connected with what you need to say, what you want to say, and doing it. I call it fearless speaking, but so that the sense of what you have to say comes through, because it's grounded and centered in what's important for you.
Thank you, Doreen. And where can people find yourself and your book?
On my website, Doreen, Doreen Downing, DoreenDowning.com. Very simple. I've got everything there. I've got how to work with me. I've got my freebies and how to connect with me. So everything that would be the best place. The book is available there. It's on Amazon. But if you go to the website, go to the book link, and there you are. Everything is there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Doreen. Thank you for sharing your own healing journey to my audience for Heal Yourself.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to, because the way that you listened to me felt like, I had more room to explore myself. And I think that that's what we give people, is room, a safe room or safe space to find more of who they are.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with anyone who you think will benefit. And can you leave me a review wherever you've listened to it to help me reach more people? Thank you.